Hey, second graders, super excited to be back with you again on day 3 so we can continue to talk about our human footprint on the environment around us. Today, we're going to get started by talking about this storyboard. So, in this picture, we have a storyboard. Today, we're going to talk about what we notice, and we're going to read it a couple times, and we're going to be taking notes again. Remember, our goal by the end of this week is to be writing an informational paragraph about positive and negative impacts that people can have on the environment. So having that notebook ready to go is a great thing to do. So go ahead, hit pause, go grab what you need, and let's come back to get started together. So in that picture, you can probably see behind this really neat storyboard, you might recognize that school. That's our playground. And we probably miss being there and having recess together. So many great memories. You'll notice here too, the sidewalk out in the field. This is your Striders route that you take when you're running and racing around out there. And while you've been running, have you ever noticed these storyboards that are out there? If you haven't, here's your opportunity to look at them, wonder about them, read about them, and most importantly, take some notes so we can share some information with people about the environment. So when I look at the storyboard, some things I notice to make it interesting and catching to the eye, I see real photographs. I see a monarch caterpillar and I see a monarch butterfly in some kind of plants, and I'm assuming or I'm guessing based on my knowledge that that's some kind of flowers or milkweed that they're enjoying, because we know that they like them. I also noticed this big heading at the top that says milkweed for monarchs. So I'm inferring that this storyboard is going to be about milkweed and why monarchs read milkweed. So let's go ahead. We're going to read it the first time just to talk about and figure out what this storyboard's about. And then we'll go back and reread and take some notes. The storyboard says, increased urban development and recent changes to agricultural practices in Iowa are some of the contributors to the decline in monarch populations. So remember, in the fall, second graders, when we raised those monarchs from egg to caterpillar to monarchs that got to fly to Mexico, we were doing that because the monarch population was declining. And this storyboard is telling us why. They're telling us that increased urban development, so building schools, building houses, building movie theaters, building things that we do need, but when we build these things, that sometimes takes away the habitat of animals or insects that are in our environment. So thinking about, is that a positive impact or a negative impact on our environment? It's hard to say. Butterflies need connected corridors of habitat to move between food sources. Monarchs in particular need nectar and host plants such as milkweed as a food source and for reproduction. Milkweed is a native plant that is in short supply along with other native species. So what I'm understanding as I'm reading, because we always want to check for understanding as we're reading. If we don't know, we go back to reread, is that there is less habitat for monarchs, and then if there's less habitat, that also means that there's less milkweed. And we know that milkweed is what monarchs need in order to survive. Native plants not only benefit butterflies, but they also help improve soil health to allow rainwater to slow down and soak in, rather than just running off of the surface to the nearest creek. This provides the rainscaping connection to healthy habitat. So in the storyboard, we learned that increased urban development is something that's affecting milkweed for monarchs, and because of that, there's less and less milkweed for those monarchs. If they don't have the milkweed, they also don't have habitat with those native plants. We also know in this bottom paragraph, they talked about how native plants can not only benefit butterflies, but they also help improve the soil that the milkweed is growing in, and it also helps slow down rainwater. And that's really important when we're thinking about our environment and taking care of our environment. So thinking back to your notebook, we're going to take some notes that we learned about today with this milkweed for monarchs Milkweed for Monarchs storyboard. Remember, we're thinking about how can we have a positive impact on the environment. I'm just going to write down some of the big ideas that we learned. We learned that building new homes, schools, or new homes and schools has led to a monarch population decline. Because of that, there's less milkweed, which we know means no food. It also means no habitat. And that can be really, really scary. So what that makes me wonder, second graders, I wonder how we could have a positive impact on the environment when we think about we do need our school because we do need to learn. So I wonder what we could do as second graders and as a school to help replace that milkweed, because we know that milkweed's important to monarchs, and monarchs are pollinators, and their jobs are really important for us to survive by what we eat. Oh my goodness, you know what I just thought of? What about those milkweed grow kits you got in your reunification bags on Monday? If you haven't done so yet, second graders, go ahead and start your kit. And then tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to review what we learned in the fall about milkweed and how it's important. And then we're going to take all that information and we're going to put it into an informational paragraph teaching people about a positive way that we are impacting the environment by planting milkweed so that the environment can benefit from us. Go ahead and get started and see you tomorrow.